All right, ladies and gents, we got a video on inflation, general state of the economy. First video, those of you who don't know, I'm a CFA charter holder and I spent 5 years at one of the largest banks in their asset management division. I know a little bit of what I'm talking about, but don't have all the answers, but maybe we'll just go through this and see how everyone's holding up.
Hello, this says everything about inflation. Remember the movie Home Alone? That's Kevin right there when he went to the grocery store by himself. Well, back in 1990, the groceries that he bought cost $19.83. In 2022, those same groceries cost $44.40. Just a year ago. Now, this year, take a look. $72.28 for the same order, the same groceries. That is a 248% increase. This is called inflation, my friends. Big time inflation. And it's all showing you just because of Kevin from Home Alone. But you're probably experiencing the same thing when you go to the grocery store. How higher are you paying? How much more are you paying when you go to the grocery store? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure you're following me. Hit the plus symbol right over there. I'm giving you the news.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone knows, everyone's felt it so far. If you're not in the top 5%, pretty much most people are drowning. You got people who are making $250,000 a year who are also living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know. It's not going to get any better, unfortunately. My perspective is all the government spending, it's going to continue to ramp up. It's going to, if you look at our monetary base, it's pretty much beginning to hockey stick. And if we keep spending like we're spending and paying for stuff that we can't afford, we're just stealing from the future generations, and we are just now feeling the beginning effects. I know everyone's saying that inflation's coming down a little bit. You might be able to argue that, but historically inflation has been much harder to defeat. It's been a lot more sticky if you look back in the 70s and the 80s. So we'll see we'll see what the Fed does. But yeah, it's I don't really have any good news for the future.
So I just had a guy tell me that the economy is booming and that the only reason people are struggling is because they're not working hard enough. Yep, so for all of us struggling, we're just not working hard enough. Does this guy realize that today there are people who are making $30,000 to $50,000 more a year than they were making 3 to 5 years ago, but they are struggling more today than 3 to 5 years ago? Has this guy walked through a grocery store? Has he seen the price of chips? Has he seen the price of cereal? Has he seen the prices of anything? Does he realize that we have elderly who, in order to put food on the table, are having to go work at Walmart even though they're 80 years old?
Yeah.
Does he realize that people who are in their...
Yeah, that's one of our biggest issues coming up, is our demographic pretty much collapse. The baby boomer generation, as they start to retire, they're retiring on fixed incomes. Their fixed incomes are getting hit really hard with inflation. So that's a really bad component coming up. Our demographic issue, it's just going to put a huge burden on every other generation, the future generations, and there's really not a good solution to it so far. I think to get dark, Canada's, performing assisted suicides if you really want to. If you can really afford that.
In their 30s and 40s who do have a job, who do have a good career, have moved back in with their parents because they can't afford the price of rent and they can't buy a home right now because the interest rates are so high and the prices of homes are still high. And then you add on property taxes, and then you add on home insurance. People can't afford that. And it's not as simple as go get a better job, go get a second job. It's not that simple. Telling a mom like me to go get a second job when I'm already working a full-time career and I already have a 2-hour commute every day, I don't have time for that. Okay, so what? I go get a second job and now I'm never with my children? How is that worth it? Oh, and now I have to go pay more daycare expenses? How is that worth it? Okay, we have a lot of people in this country.
Yeah, I don't know how people are doing it with kids. If you're not making, in a household, if you're not making $150,000, $160,000 combined, and you have a couple of kids, it's pretty rough. You're definitely living lower class, poor. I think I saw a number recently that said back in the day, it was like 70s or 80s, I believe, if you made $30,000 or $33,000, the equivalent purchasing power or lifestyle adjustment to today's numbers would be $163,000 or $162,000. So from $33,000 to be able to live the same lifestyle, the same purchasing power, $162,000. That is egregious.
The answer is not to bury your head in the sand and act like nothing's going on. Do not tell me the economy is booming. The economy is not booming when people are struggling the way they are. And when I mean people that have good jobs, who have good degrees, who have 2 incomes coming in their house, and the family is still struggling. That's not a booming economy.
I heard a new term on TikTok today that made me stop in my tracks.
We are living in the silent depression.
This guy believes we are not just living in worse than the Great Depression, we're living in the silent depression. The average annual income in 1930 for an American individual was a little over $4,800. Sounds like nothing, but if you adjust that for inflation, a little over $4,800 a year in 1930 is equivalent to almost $85,000 annually for the average salary for one person. Right now, the average annual salary is $56,000 a year. We currently are making less than the height of the Great Depression. In 1930, gas was on average 10 cents a gallon. That would be about $1.73. In case you haven't filled up your car lately, average cost of a gallon of gas is $3.55. To buy a new car in 1930 would have been about $860. It's worth about 15 grand. The average cost of a new car today is $48,000.
If you're buying a new car today, you're insane. Do not do that. Get a $20,000 car, get a $15,000 car. My Jeep Wrangler, I think I picked it up for like 18.
And of course, the most coveted aspect of the American dream, being able to buy a house in 1930 cost about $3,900, less than $70,000. I spend way too much time on Zillow, so maybe this isn't surprising to me, but the average price of a home in America today is $416,000. How could we be living through worst cost of living
it's gonna get much
wages
worse
than 1930? And no politician, no media.
From my perspective on the housing crisis, you just have all the institutional money, the BlackRocks, the Fidelities that are all these big asset managers, these conglomerates that are partnering together with these large, invitation homes, pretty much all these home managers who are now not only just building houses to sell, they're building to lease. So they won't even sell new houses in some instances. So there's definitely a plan to take over America's what used to be #1 generational wealth building asset class. There's definitely a concerted effort to completely acquire as much as possible of that asset class and just lease it out for the rest of time. And home ownership has made more millionaires than any other asset class in the world. So purely just by taking that away, it's definitely a concerted effort to pretty much wipe out the middle class. Sad.
Media outlet, no one is talking about it.
If I don't know how I'm gonna eat, you think I have a mindset for anything you're talking about? The only thing I want to know is how am I going to pay my bills? There are people right now that feel like that walking around. Now they feel like they're drowning. So if you get somebody's head above water for, let's just say 3 months, then we could talk about the LLCs, the mentorship, the real money. But when I'm drowning, the only thing I'm trying to do is get above water.
In today's economy, do you think a couple that brings home $100,000 is enough to support a small family of like 3 to 4 people? I asked this because I made a post yesterday about how Americans are really struggling, and it was really sad and eye-opening to me to see the amount of people.
I mean, yeah. You're gonna probably have a lot of people in the comments who are like poor, and they get by on $50,000 in a household with multiple kids. Definitely lower class. That are going to be saying like $100,000 easy, but she's definitely middle class. You have that lifestyle creep as well. You get used to that lifestyle. So I know there's going to be some old poor people out here who are like, hey, you guys are the new poor. We've been poor for a long time. You figure out a way to make it happen, but
they're what's called new poor. We're old poor. Yeah, they could stand to learn a lesson or two from us. But
who said, I make 6 figures now, yet we're still struggling. And I don't mean is it enough to buy like luxuries. I just mean is $100,000 enough to live comfortably without having to live paycheck to paycheck. I remember like 12 years ago, my mom told me about this couple I knew who were making like a combined salary of $110,000. And at that point in my life, 20s, I'm thinking, what a dream, what a goal it was for me to be able to say one day that my husband and I were making like $110,000. And now here I am in 2023, and I'm like, it's not the dream life anymore. Like, if someone would have told me my husband and I would be making what we're making and still having to cut back on necessities, I would have been like, you have to be kidding me. Like, we didn't even go on a vacation this year because the last thing I'm going to do is put a vacation on a credit card, but we didn't have extra money to bring our kids on a vacation, and we both have good jobs. So if you think $100,000 is enough, I'm curious, what's your location? Do you not have children? Like, why do you think it's enough? Because I'm telling you, from yesterday's post on here, the comments say different, and the comments say that a majority of Americans are really, really struggling, and I mean hardworking Americans. So
okay, so I'm here to talk.
I couldn't imagine. I was making like $120,000 at my my previous job, and I've been single for the longest time, so pretty easy to get by on 120 as a single guy. I couldn't imagine right now. For you have insurance rates going up, you have taxes going up, everything is going up across the board, and you're having kids. Is maybe that's the plan, make you not have kids.
Talk about a few things. So I'm back home, I'm back in Tennessee with my mom, and I'm trying my best, you know. I know everybody is trying their best, you know, to have like a job and everything, but you know, I kind of feel a little bit down because you know how, you know, all you want is to be able to do for your parents like how your parents did for you. And for me, I haven't found like, you know, a lot of money yet. Like, I would love to be able to, you know, take care of my mom, take care of my sister, and just return the favor for all of the stuff that they've done for me over the years. You know what I'm saying? Now, I do help out. Like, I'll pay a few things. Like, I may get groceries, or, you know, I might pay some bills here and there for them and stuff like that. But to me, that's not enough. Like, I would like to be able to, you know, get us a home, have us all live there, have us just have our lives the way that it should be, you know. But I haven't found a job that can pay me enough, you know. So it's just a lot that I'm going through right now. You know, my mother is on the verge of selling her home because she can no longer afford it. And I wish that I made enough so that way we wouldn't even be in this situation. You know, it's just, I know I'm not the only one that is going through like financial stuff, financial problems. I mean, the whole world, I mean, we are all struggling, and it's not fun. Like, how are we supposed to pay our bills? How are we supposed to be able to eat? How are we supposed to be able to survive? And for me, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, 2024 is looking really scary for my family. I mean, for a lot of families across the world. And I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, I'm scared, y'all, honestly. I really don't know what we're gonna do. But, you know, just keep trying. You know, that's all that I can say. That's what me and my sister, that's what we're doing. We're just trying our best to, you know, try to come up with a game plan. But I don't know. I mean, y'all see how expensive it is out there. Like, it's not fun. Like, I'm not a fan. Like, I don't know what we're gonna do. I really don't know. But I'm just gonna keep being positive and trying my best. That's all.
Yeah, I'm pretty pessimistic for 2024. Elections coming up. You know, it's going to be really tumultuous. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans going on. You got all the wars going on internationally. It's going to get heated up pretty quick. And we have the crazy migrant crossings. We have everything going on, and it seems like a concerted effort to destabilize the nation, either prior or during the elections or something. But I think everyone can kind of feel between, you know, making everyone not able to afford life, putting that strain and that pressure on them, and then as well as adding in all the external forces. It seems like in 2024 everything's coming to a head, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting times.
You can do. Okay. Bye, y'all.
Whether you're living in a van or in an apartment, you would still have to work.
Yeah.
And you're how old again?
75.
So at 75, if you didn't work, you wouldn't survive.
I wouldn't.
Wow.
I mean, I have a son that would probably help me, but that's not, I'm too independent for that.
Another dilemma you were telling me about, I mean, it just seems like the system is set up to make it difficult for older people
Yes.
who are on fixed income living in poverty. Because you were saying that when you applied for housing, they reduced housing, they told you, what did they tell you?
They told me that because I was working, I would have to pay a higher percentage. And I said, well, what if I quit work? And they go, well, it's illegal for you to quit work just so you can get low-income housing. You would have to not be working for at least 6 months to get into low-income housing. And then you would get a lower percentage. So while I'm working, my rent would be about 50 to 60% more than if I'm just on Social Security.
But then you have to stop working for 6 months and you wouldn't be able to survive.
Right. And if I go on low-income housing now, they will not lower the rent for me when I get off, quit working. They will not lower it. So you have to go back out of the housing system and re-sign up to wait for another housing.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This is unbelievable.
Yes.
Absolutely unbelievable.
So I've been through it twice, and each time, and they've said, the last lady said to me, you are so much better off in that van.
What?
That's what a state employee told me. Yes.
God. I don't know much about low-income housing restrictions, rules, regulations, or anything like that. I don't have any experience in that, but I'm sure that's a wake-up call for someone to tell you, hey, you're better off just living in the van, man. Stay in there. And going back to it, the demographic issue that we're going to be facing, it's going to be absolutely extreme. You already have a lot of elderly on fixed income. They already can't afford everything. They're being pushed to the limit, and they're being evicted. They're being forced out of their residences. If they don't have family members to rely on, you're going to have a massive elderly, just what do you do with these people crisis. I don't think Canada's solution to just assisted suicide is really going to be the best option.
Better off in the van.
Yes.
Heat up with the butane stove, and you have the Mr. Buddy, but that's so expensive. So what are some other ways? Because I know you said you have solar.
I have solar, and I thought that would work. I've discovered how unreliable solar is. If you have rain or fog, everything costs money. I mean, I have 500 watts of solar. Well, if I want to charge it by the battery, or, through the car, what other people do, there's more money. If I want,
because you're using gas,
and you're using gas, and then if I want to heat and I want to buy a bigger propane so that it's cheaper, there's more to it.
I hope whoever sees this video feels less alone right now. As the holiday season is approaching, I lost my job. No longer have one.
You got some nice jewelry.
And I've been the breadwinner for my husband and I. And I was let go in a moment's notice without any warning. Now, during the holiday season, I just want to let you know it's okay if you can't afford to get people anything, or if it's very small. It's
unacceptable. If you can't get them top tier gifts every single year, that's on you.
Thought that counts, and your friends and family should understand that. I was able to find some family members really affordable items. If y'all want me to actually post what I was able to get my family members and friends, I will show you guys. But I confided in a friend the other day, and I told her that even when I was the breadwinner and making money, I only ate one meal a day because I couldn't afford to eat more than that because I'm gluten-free, and unfortunately gluten-free items are just more expensive than
gluten-free.
Things I've given up because of the cost of living. I've seen a few videos on TikTok now talking about things people have given up because of the rising cost of living, and I just kind of wanted to speak to that a little bit. You know, there's a ton of things I could list when it comes to the list of things I've given up because of the rising cost of living. But honestly, the thing that matters to me the most, it's not even any of the material things like eating out or being able to get someone else to cut my hair or being able to get new glasses because I have a big old scratch across one of the lenses that I can't afford to get replaced. The biggest thing for me is just the constant feeling and pressure of stressing about finances and how to make ends meet. So that's why I started this account, to try and find ways to make extra money and share it with you.
I mean, yeah. I don't think I don't know, from my experience in the corporate world, the pressure never stops. You're always going to have that lifestyle creep. You're always going to be spending more. Even these big executives, these big, VPs, whatever the senior vice presidents, whatever they may be. I remember talking to those guys and they're still worrying about money. So it's really just, I mean, to an extent, it's a fiscal responsibility issue, but you know, at some point you got to say, hey, I have to live below my means. But when you get to the point where you're making a lot of money, you can't let that influence. Like, you can't just go out and buy that nice car. You can't go do that. Keep the car payment low, or just buy the car outright. Don't let that lifestyle creep get in, man, because some of these corporate guys that were making great money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're just stressed as hell. They're unhealthy. They're all getting fat because the stress is just like weighing on them, and you don't want to be in that position either.
I just went to Costco and bought 2 things: teriyaki noodles and tissue paper. Tell me why it was $32.
At a certain point, people are just not gonna be able to live here anymore, bro. Like, it's low key. They're gentrifying the same way they gentrify hoods and turn them into nicer areas with Starbucks and Whole Foods. They're doing it low-key to the middle class at this point. Like, you're going to start pushing out middle-class Americans. They're going to have to start moving and getting visas and shit to go to other countries because we can't keep up with this shit. People that are living in normal cities, you know, not even like downtown areas, Miami or anything like that. They're living in like, you know, Ocala and stuff. It's getting expensive for them even that they have to think about moving to places like, you know, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Missouri, like places, rural areas where it's cheaper. If they start building a Starbucks or a Chipotle around the corner from you, just know that your rent is going up $400. Yo, Mike, there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and I remember hearing the story. A ton of Californians would actually, if they were working remote but had to live sort of in the San Diego area, they would actually move over the border to Mexico. So you had all these reports of Mexicans who lived near the border, you know, proud to be in Mexico, working in Mexico, you know, living in their towns, and all of a sudden they have all these white people coming in, you know, they're now buying everything up and pushing the wages up. So it is a constant fight. It's just funny to see, like, you know, white people going over the border to evade the effects of the American financial position right now, but becoming a global fight for a scarcity of resources. So it's unfortunately only going to get worse. As you guys already know, I kind of have a dark outlook on the future, but who knows? Could get better.
How are people affording life right now? How are people tackling this?
Also on that previous video, what's amazing to see now is even apartment complexes that are going up all over the place. None of them are, you know, lower to middle priced apartment complexes. It seems like there's a concerted effort to make everything a quote unquote luxury apartment and to charge you pretty much the same price range. So there really is not, you know, everyone's paying around $1,900 to $2,000 to $2,200 for a 1-bedroom. From my experience throughout Atlanta, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Denver, that's pretty much been the price range that I was always looking at, and it's always the same thing. It's always the same, you know, conglomerates. So it's getting harder and harder, even if you wanted to really reduce your lifestyle and save, trying to find like a $1,200, you know, junk apartment, you know, an older apartment. They're just not doing it anymore. They're ripping all those houses down, building these quote unquote luxury apartments, and it's very odd what's happening.
Cost of living.
We're not. Truth of the matter, most of us are living paycheck to paycheck with credit card debt. I know people who are legitimately putting gas and groceries on credit cards just so that they can get back and forth to work. I believe that this is what most people are now calling the silent depression. $100 has become the new $20, and it's ridiculous, but the best thing about it is that people have shifted their core values. Look at this app alone and all the videos of all the retailers on Black Friday that nobody was there. They just don't care anymore. People are realizing that if it doesn't bring value into my life, then I don't need it. And while I don't get political on this app, you're having people on both sides of the aisles going, yeah, this kind of sucks. Right wing, left wing, it doesn't matter. It's the same bird. And now so many Americans are going, I don't care. I think it's woken a lot of people up to the idea of why are we funding things that we don't care about when all of us right here are struggling. It's changed the people's attitude in the workforce to where a job is just a job. You used to be very loyal to a job, but they've seen that there's no employee loyalty because There's no employer loyalty. People.
Yeah, if you guys don't know politics too much, they're all corrupt. They're all scum. Both sides of the aisle. When it comes to spending, they're looking to spend as much as possible. They're all getting kickbacks from every single bill that they spend. If not, then they're getting inside information so they can position themselves to profit later. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon. They just passed a $95 billion, more Ukraine, Israel aid, and you better believe those effects, they're always a little bit of a delayed effect, so that's only going to increase inflation, that's only going to add to it. Every time we're spending more money we don't have, it's just going to steal from the future generations and the wealth of the future generations. So something radically has to change, or else we're going into a position where, a lot of other first world countries or superpower nations in past times, they've done the same exact thing, and we're following in lockstep with them. And fortunately, what always typically happens from my understanding is we're pretty much in loot the treasury mode right now. That's the phase we're in, is just loot the treasury. Everyone's trying to just get theirs. I think Tim Dillon had a great bit where everyone's like, everyone knows we're going down sinking ship, we're just kind of like, we're trying to get our own. Get your own bag, save yourself, and get out.
And we should all thank God for that, because the hellscape that's about to be created is going to be so bad. Just kind of create a society based on goodies, little rewards, and the addiction to celebrity, where our leaders will all be celebrities who will tell you on closed circuit television how good things are going. And you'll go, good, thanks.
But it really does feel like that. And I don't know what's gonna happen to be able to reverse that. But typically, once the treasury is looted, once the purchasing power is gone completely haywire, and there's no saving it anymore, it always leads to war. It's always a global conflict. You see how the BRICS nations are starting to line up and to really get behind China, and you can definitely see that the next dominant superpower is going to be China. I'm sorry, it's just maybe they have some demographic issues, but when it comes to sort of purchasing power and the commodities of the world producers, they're all getting behind the BRICS nations in that system. So it is a concerted effort to ditch the US dollar at some point. When that happens, I don't know. Nobody knows, but it definitely seems like I didn't think anyone else is out here. It definitely seems like it's speeding up, though.
Toxic bosses anymore. You're either going to treat me right or I'm going to leave, because there's tons of companies that are hiring because nobody can find help. People just don't trust the system anymore, and they're starting to focus on what matters the most. Most people are out here making more money than they ever have and realizing that it's not going anywhere, so they're just not spending it. And what has made a lot of people turn their back on the system is that now they somehow either make too much or not enough money to qualify for the government assistance that they've been paying into their entire life. There are people out there who can't afford to buy the groceries, but they make too much money to get the food stamps. A lot of people are out here calling it the depression. I like to call it the awakening. People are just realizing how much they can get done on their own and that they don't need the government to hold their hand. So to go back to your question, how are people making it? Financially, I don't really know. But I'm very grateful that people are starting to look for answers.
I see it in comments on other videos all the time where older generations, a lot of boomers and stuff are, why are you not loyal to your company? Why are you job hopping? I'm telling you, right when I got into the corporate space, everyone was looking immediately, just job hop. If you're the type of person who actually job hops every 2 years or so, you will end up making about 50% more than someone who stays loyal to a company throughout maybe like a 20-year time span. But yeah, it's pretty evident when I was at the corporation, when I was at the big investment firm I was at, it was pretty much after a year, everyone was like, okay, there's much better money at, the BlackRocks of the world, a lot of other asset managers. So it's really apparent, and everyone pretty much knows everyone's looking for another gig, and they're gonna take it if they get the opportunity and if it works for them. So it's kind of funny just navigating that. Like, Like, you're walking around, everyone knows that they don't want to be there and they want to be somewhere else. And yeah, there's just no loyalty to any of these big corporations, which I don't blame them, because those big corporations, they don't care about you either.
Hey Rats, I'm a teacher and I can barely afford to pay rent with my salary. My salary bi-weekly is basically my rent minus $500. Guess how much my car is? $400. Guess how much insurance is? $100. Oh yeah, that's right. You do the math. I'm left with owing money at the end of the month. That's not even with groceries. Holy, that's not even with groceries. I realize every single month I am transferring money out of savings into my checking, and I am not. Just had the realization in the car that I'm actually gonna go into debt if I continue being a teacher. Like, genuinely. Wow. Oh, I'm like literally having a crisis right now. I'm gonna have a panic attack right now. I can't do this. I literally cannot do this.
We can't afford life. So we've just stopped. We've just stopped buying things, which is delightful because the companies don't know what to do about that. I think it's important to remember that our previous generations, our parents, they were able to do things like get a credit card with like a 2 and 3% interest rate. So they could do things like live above their means a little bit because they knew at some point they were going to get that 2 or 3% annual raise and then be able to pay off that debt. We don't have that. We don't have that. So companies are still operating under the assumption that people are willing to go into debt. No, we already have our debt. You have an entire generation of people who have entered their 30s and 40s with tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt they will never repay because it's at a 7% compounding interest rate.
Yeah, when it comes to student loan debt, everyone's screwed. That everyone who's not planning to make payments, I mean, they're going to get their wages garnished. I'm not the type of person to think that the government should come in and take taxpayers' money, people who have worked hard for it, to pay off that debt. However, we can stop the compounding right now and just declare all student loans at a 0% interest rate just to stop the bleeding, at least. I mean, that's not really hurting anyone. That's going to hurt the Fannie Mae's, the Freddie Macs of the world who own that debt, but those are quasi-government corporations already. But so anytime the government comes in and guarantees loans or anything like that, the prices of everything is going to go up across the board, whether you're purchasing textbooks or whatever it may be in those programs. But yeah, it's the fact that the government got in to the university game, to the student loan game. I mean, in all these universities, you see their endowments, their foundations, they're the ones who reap the rewards from it. And I think the funniest thing is all these universities always call back to their alumni and say, hey, if you want to donate to our endowment or our foundation, we love it. Just get them on the back end as well, huh?
We're not going to put things on our 24% interest rate credit cards. We're not going to do it. So we're not living. We are surviving. And we are finding new ways to define success. And we are building communities, and we're staying home, and we're going to our local libraries, and we are just hand making things, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Like this year, my Christmas present to my family is the plane ticket to get there.
Well, I think that's it. Let me know in the comments how you guys are doing. How are you guys dealing with inflation? Are you keeping up with it? Are you going more and more into debt? I'm sure just about every single one of you are, because if you look at credit card rates right now, not only just the rates on credit card, but the outstanding credit card debt, I think we're at like $1.2 trillion. It's the largest it's ever been, as well as with the rates being for credit cards anywhere from 22 to 30%. I know a lot of you guys are hurting, but let me know in the comments how you guys are doing right now, and what's your outlook for the future? Or do you think things have gotten a little bit better for you in the past, let's say 3 months or so since last year? Are they just getting worse and worse? Are you able to keep your head above water, or how you doing? Let me know down in the comments, and fight each other in the comments about all the pain that's going on in the economy right now. I'd love to see it.